Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Hub Underground. Matt Dolph here with Ty Anderson, as we are every single episode. You can get us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, mainly. If you are listening on audio, though, this is a remote episode, so we are on YouTube if you prefer to go watch on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, hi, welcome to the Sports Hub Underground. Ty, how you doing?
What is going on today? How we feeling?
I'm feeling. I felt better physically. I talked to you about it last night after the game. The Bruins lose to the Panthers in this crazy fashion at the end of the game. There, I got my game story up. I went down to the locker room, and then I felt like I was about to faint. I think I just didn't drink enough water, which is just an insanely stupid thing for a human being to do. Especially me. So I've learned my lesson there, Ty. I need to go to the little water machine by my seat at the press box, more than one time throughout the night, and I need to drink my fluids. I'm pretty glad I didn't all of a sudden, pass out and fall and hit my head on the floor in the middle of David Pastrnak, waxing poetic about Brad Marchand. I thought back to that driving home, like, if I all of a sudden I just woke up and Pastrnak was in my face, like, you okay, man? What's going on? And you're like holding my hand, like, oh my god, man, are you okay? I was like, if I ever did that, like, so apologies if I alarmed you, if you were just like, where the hell is he? And then I let you know that I had to get out of there and get some water before I, died.
It's understandable. I mean, happy you didn't die. It's important not to die.
It's important to drink water.
Yeah, no,
everybody drink water.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what Bruins hockey does to a man. You start feeling faint, you're gonna pass out. I mean, welcome to the experience. It's been 8 games of it now. I fainted every day and I feel fine.
Yeah, seriously, they make me want to faint the way they lose games, especially these days. But let's get into the local hockey club, Ty. So last time we talked, they were 3-0, I believe. We were in the studio. They were up to that hot start. There were things we liked. There were things we felt weren't sustainable. And so now we fast forward here. They are now 3-5. They've lost 5 in a row. There's a couple of big common themes, I think, in the recent losing streak for the Bruins. Let's start with the defense, the way they play in the defensive end. And, goaltending can be an extension of that if you wanted to get into that as well. But I think so far it's just defensively, it hasn't been nearly what they need to be. We knew going into the season they needed to be a strong defensive club in order to, even be competitive in some of these games, especially against the top teams in the league. I think the decision making in the defensive zone has not been crisp. The breakouts have not been good. They've been getting snuffed out in the neutral zone a lot, just trying to get out of their own end. We saw some of that last night, even against the Panthers. And so I feel like the way they've moved the puck, the way they've decided with the puck, and sometimes indecisive with the puck leading to turnovers, I feel like that's been a major issue. I want to get your more detailed thoughts on it because you are, as perceptive as anyone I know when it comes to analyzing how a hockey team is playing. But I think just overall, like the defense as a group, but I especially look at McAvoy, the way he's playing. I think he's off to a bad start this year. The physical presence hasn't really been there. His hits per game have been below his career average. I thought he would at least be a guy that could make his presence felt physically in the defensive zone. But I thought he could also make good decisions with the puck and move the puck skillfully. Hasn't done nearly enough of that. And so I put a lot of that on him because he's their number one defenseman, playing the most minutes, playing in all situations, all that. But the defense as a whole just hasn't played to the level that they need to. And to the level that I thought they could. I think they are capable of better than this. I didn't think they had like elite personnel on defense necessarily. And part of this is that Hampus Lindholm has been out. And so him coming back should help. But I feel like that was even an issue even when he was in the lineup to start the year. It's not like they were shutting teams down defensively. Mm-hmm. So that's been, I think, the biggest issue. And it's really the dam has broken in these last 5 games defensively.
The dam is broken. They're asking guys to do too much once again. This team was not built to handle losing Hampus Lindholm. He's played just 3 games now, really 1.3 or 2.3 rather, because he left after the first period against the Blackhawks in the second game of the year. I mean, this is their issue, right? And then what you have is you have a hodgepodge of guys that are probably better in a third pairing role. Yoki Haru has been way too loose with the puck, fast and loose with it. Hustadinov gets benched gets his pocket picked by JJ Peterka in the third period. But really, Yoki Haru's defensive coverage on that entire sequence is terrible. Then you go back to the Vegas game. William Karlsson's second goal, the power play goal in third period. Yoki Haru, Karlsson beats three guys to the attack at the defending blue line for the Bruins. He's in all alone. And then Yoki Haru sees him and then spins away from him, giving him clean access to the front of the net. It's just like he hasn't been good, right? And he's here because you didn't have anybody else available in free agency. Dante Fabro re-signed, Aaron Ekblad re-signed, Neil Pionk re-signed. So you had to keep him because you're like, all right, well, there's really no other option here. But, his usage goes up when Lindholm is out because Zadorov's usage goes up when Lindholm is out. So he's playing more. Mason Lohrei, they have him in a top pairing role. He's not a top pairing defenseman, right? And so you got two guys that are playing probably above their ceiling, right? Andrew Peeke is a third pairing guy on a cup contender, and he's a third pairing guy on a cup contender that makes your life miserable. Here in Boston, he's playing top four right now. You don't fault these guys for it, but there's limitations there, right? And I think to your point, there's been too many instances I've seen where the defense, and I'll exclude Zadorov because I think Zadorov has been good. The defense just looks like they're not making confident plays. They'll lunge and then they back off. And they're like, what should I do? And then they're trapped in that sticky no man's land where now there's chances against. But they haven't been clean. McAvoy's processing has been really slow, I feel. And they're still allowing way too many quality looks. Now, they have their own internal numbers like all teams do, but what we have is Natural Stat Trick. That's what's readily available to us. Natural Stat Trick has them being the sixth worst team in expected goals against, and the seventh worst team in high danger chances against. So they're still allowing way too many high quality looks. And this is the problem for this team, Matt. They cannot be the team that is too loosey-goosey. They want to win games 2-1, 3-2, 1-0. You can't do that if you're allowing 14 high danger looks per 60 minutes. You just can't do it. It's not sustainable.
Not sustainable at all. Not the way they're playing and with their offensive personnel. You mentioned Mason Lohrei. Bad night last night. I was actually wondering, especially looking back at that Luostarinen goal last night where old friend Brad Marchand, which I'm sure we'll get to later in the program, makes a really nice little backhand saucer pass through the neutral zone to Luostarinen. He gets a step on Lohrei. Lohrei can't do anything with his stick. He's right there, but can't make the play. Luostarinen fires. Swayman can't bail Lohrei out, and the puck's in the net. That didn't turn out to be the game winner because the Bruins tied it, but it was the go-ahead goal at the time. It felt like the goal that was going to, kill the Bruins that night. And Lohrei gets called out directly by Marco Sturm. Sturm says, yeah, those two goals were on him. Like, I was curious watching back those two plays. It's like, well, maybe McAvoy was over pursuing there. Maybe it wasn't necessarily Lohrai's fault, but no, that according to Sturm, it was Lohrei. So yeah, just looking back at that, like McAvoy's up by the red line trying to, limit the space Marchand has to make that pass. And Lohrei is pinching up the left side. And it's like, basically he might as well have let Luostarinen open for a breakaway there. Like, that's basically what happened. Mm-hmm. And like, you just can't have that. And like, Lohrai's a guy we talked about a lot going into the year. Is a guy that I had hope would show some improvement in the defensive areas of his game, working directly with Marco Sturm. And so I don't know, maybe the message wasn't getting through to him, and maybe Sturm is letting him know, like, you're on notice, buddy. Like, you need to be better. But this is a point that you've made a lot. Maybe he just can't be better. Maybe this is just what he is. Like, he's just never going to have the instincts to be that strong defensive presence. And so I think at the very least, you probably got to move Lohrei down the lineup. Lohrei is certainly not a top pairing defenseman right now. I don't know if he'll ever be. He's not going to have the defensive instincts to do it. The defensive problems, I feel like Lohrei is sort of central to that as well, with him getting the top pairing minutes and clearly looking like he's not ready to do it.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point, right? Like, I think that, you want to utilize your guys in a way that plays to their strengths, right? I think that with Mason, He's a guy that you want getting puck touches. You want him leading breakouts. You want him shooting the puck. You want him activating. It's just really hard in the top pairing role, right? When you're going against your Jack Eichels and your Brad Marchands and your Nate McKinnons and what have you, like, it's hard to find that separation because you have that constantly in the back of your mind of, oh shit, if I make one wrong read, it's going the other way for a breakaway or a 2-on-1, and now I'm getting cooked. And so I do feel like, a lot of what's funny to me is that a lot of the limitations that Bruins fans and the Bruins themselves put on Matt Grzelcyk and Torrey Krug for their size and whatnot, like, that still exists in Mason Lohrei. Like, he's 6'5", but he's not a behemoth. He's not going to knock guys off the puck. He's not going to put anybody through the boards. I mean, he's lucky if he finishes a game with one hit or two. So those limitations exist. I think especially like when I look at Torrey Krug, right? Battler, competed really hard, would throw the body, played bigger than 5'9". And let me tell you, his 5'9", he was strong. He was a solid 5'9" frame wise. Matt Grzelcyk, real skinny, real skinny, but super smart processing, good stick, positionally, kind of knew where to put his stick to deflect pucks out of play, things of that nature. Lohrei, not quite there yet, right? Not quite there yet. Might never get there. I think going to Luosterainen goal last night, that makes it 3-2 Florida. I think, yeah, Lohrei gets beat. I also don't love what Charlie McAvoy's doing there. I don't.
Yeah, that's what I thought watching the replay. I was like, McAvoy's way too far out there.
He's way too far out there, and then he veers left. Okay, well, in that situation, I'd rather you be backing off a little bit, knowing that it is Brad Marchand, and knowing that Mason Lohrei is your partner. Like, Marchand, the master of tricky little sneaky plays where he just chips it up and the guy's gone. You saw it for years and years and years.
Sneaky little rat.
And so I think that this is sort of the issue with that pairing, is that you got two guys that you want taking charge, but I feel like neither one is comfortable taking charge right now because of their partner. Like, Lohrai's got to defer to McAvoy, and McAvoy's got to say, I got to do this because Lohrei can't. It's kind of a weird combination in that regard. And so I think that's easy to blame Lohrei. Didn't have a good game. It's one of those situations where you might prefer a penalty over, just letting Luosterainen get in there. But I don't love what led up to that. McAvoy, I think, gets way too aggressive in the neutral zone, trying to deny Marchand on a poke check that I don't know if you're going to beat Brad Marchand. Brad Marchand's a strong dude. And if you're going at him with a one-handed poke where you're veering to your left when you're a right shot, I don't love your odds, if that makes sense. And so I just think that that's a mental error that this team can't afford, given their shortcomings that we've talked about, the shortcomings that we saw throughout this losing streak, for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely. I still thought it was notable that Sturm would call out Lohrei directly. My issue overall is still with McAvoy, because McAvoy's supposed to be the number one defenseman playing at a high level, and Lohrei is kind of playing above his skis being on the top pairing in the first place. So, but it was interesting. Like, maybe there's something there with Sturm where it's like, I got to get through to this kid somehow. And so that just brings me to the other common thread of these losses, Ty.
Real quick, sorry.
Sorry.
No.
Before I segue.
No. Like, I think that Lohrei knew what he was getting into with Sturm. I spoke to him in the offseason. He said, yeah, it's going to be black and white, and if I'm not playing well, he's going to let me know. So I don't think there's anything that's surprising these players when they are called out. It's something they haven't heard. But again, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, this is the natural move. You had a guy who's a bit of a dick, Bruce Cassidy. Then you bring in the player-friendly guy in Jim Montgomery. That doesn't work. So now you're going back to the guy who's going to be blunt and a bit of a dick. And so nobody should be surprised by it, I guess. Yeah, is it fun to be called out in the media? No, but it's, this is what these guys knew they were getting this year. And if you're not signed up, if you're not ready for that, if that's not going to get you playing in the right way, then that's a different kind of conversation. I do think that the multi-year commitment to Marco Sturm, not that they're going to ever hire a coach to a one-year deal, but like, this is them saying, we're going to build our culture from the ground up. And if you're a bad fit, if you don't like accountability, all right, you're not part of the future. We'll find a way to parlay you into something that is part of the future. And so I think this is where, like, I made this comp last night to somebody on Twitter, but like, when the Celtics brought in Brad Stevens, they weren't like, oh, we're going to win right away. They're like, no, we're going to build the culture and we're going to find guys that are going to be part of this solution. And those who aren't are going to be jettisoned when we start amassing talent to be a better team. I think that's kind of where the Bruins are right now.
Okay, well, I hope you're right, because I hope they stay the course with Sturm, even if this is just a bad year, because it's just struggles with the personnel and they're still building. Like, I hope they don't do anything drastic with Sturm. Like, let's try to stay the course here and not fire another coach.
I don't
Fire
think
a
they'd
19th coach in 3 years.
I don't think they'd be allowed to. I really don't. There's no way. And this is sort of like, this is the part that is going to linger over this team. And I'm actually super curious to see what happens here. Like you've lost 5 games in a row, right? And you can appreciate the fight that they had in the third period to try to make it a game. But for 40 minutes, that game was unwatchable, Matt. That was bad, low event, boring hockey.
Yeah.
It's really tough to sell your fans on 82 games of this. It just is. Cable has never been more expensive. Nesson 360 costs $30 a month. Tickets are still expensive.
WrestlePalooza sucked.
It has never been easier for people to say, you know what? I don't like this. I'm going to go do something else with my time. Yeah. You're asking a lot out of your fans to really commit to 82 games of this and to be on board and love it. And, if I'm the Bruins, or if I'm just, I'm on Causeway, right? If I'm on the coaching staff, I'm not worried. If I'm in the front office, I'm a little worried because there's only so much losing and so much, no, trust my vision. We're going to be tougher. I mean, Florida is in your building, right? Brad Marchand is in your building. You've lost 4 in a row. They've lost 4 in a row. Where was the piss and vinegar? Where was the energy? Where was the emotion? I didn't see that from any of the guys that you brought in the offseason to address that. We're going to be a harder out. Team's going to hate to see us coming. The person who set off the big melee last night was Sam Reinhart. Nobody on your team was doing it. And so this is the part that I think Bruins fans are going to get frustrated with. Like, if you don't bring that intensity, that energy out of the gate, then what the hell is the damn point of signing all these energy guys? It doesn't make any damn sense to do it like that, right? And I thought that was telling about Marco last night. Marco says, yeah, we didn't have the energy or the emotion to begin that game, and we found it late, but it wasn't there. It's got to be there. That's got to be as important as your defensive structure, your elite goaltending, and your power play. You are not a skilled team. You need to be physical. You need to have energy. You need to have emotion. If you have those things, your fans will go, yeah, they lost, but hey, they gave it their all. Giving it your all for 20 minutes is not going to cut it, and it's not going to leave your fans happy. They can only take moral victories for so long.
Yeah, I was concerned about your health last night, Ty. When you came out to me after the second period, I can't do 74 more games of this. I can't do it. I'm gonna jump off the friggin' balcony.
It's just like you brought in all these guys. Like you told me, not you, like the Bruins. You told me that you brought in all these guys because you didn't like how you were an easy out a year ago. And yes, you battle back, you rally back. But why do you have to dig yourself into a hole every game to battle back? You have to, being a tough out means being a tough out from the moment the puck drops to the moment the game goes final. It doesn't mean the third period, oh, shit, we're actually down. We got to start picking it up here. Like, this was what happened last year. They had too many games where they dig themselves a hole, and then they go, oh, we should probably start playing. I don't know. Like that can't happen. And I think it's telling when, David Pastrnak is out hitting Tanner Jeannot. I think Tanner Jeannot's been for the most part, value add. But you bring in Jeannot for games like last night. Didn't see enough out of him in that regard. And that's frustrating. And that goes back to the Utah game, too. I counted 4 times Utah ran Jonas Korpisalo, who was playing fantastic. You're not going to respond once? You're not going to run their guy once? Make it harder for them? Zadorov, credit to him, Zadorov uppercuts Tanev in the face. That's great. But what about my energy guys? What about the energy guys that you brought in? If I'm Marco Sturm, I'm furious that they're not responding in some fashion there. But be that as it may, 7 games in, or 8 games in, long way to go.
Yeah, we got to keep our blood pressure at normal levels as much as we can here, Ty.
I just like, again, it's just, if you're going to be the grit and balls team, I'm on board, but I got to see it more. It's just, and this is a greater picture conversation. I want the Bruins to break the cycle of signing a guy who they played against for years, who I went, that guy is a pain in the ass. And then he comes here and he's all of a sudden like a monk. It's like, what the hell happened to you? Like
Wait, who are you talking about? Janot?
Like in general, like Garnet
Yeah.
Hathaway, even Pat Maroon when he came here, like wasn't the same kind of guy that he was in the past.
I'm trying to think of the last guy where they brought him in to be that guy, and he really was he really delivered.
Zach
That's a good
Ronaldo.
question.
Zach Ronaldo.
Seriously?
I mean, probably, right? But he wasn't.
That was a Sweeney move, right? That wasn't Peter Chiarelli.
That was Sweeney.
That was like 10 years.
That was like Sweeney's first move. Was that?
Yeah, he traded him for like a 3rd-round pick.
No, but I think last night's a great game for guys like Asamont and Janot to make it known, make their presence known, and they have the near goal and on the net front jam away that gets called off by the referee, but there are other ways to establish yourself physically, and the Bruins have to have that every night. And again, I think Janot has been value add for the most part, but we're not going to fool ourselves here, Matt. They got him for games like last night, and I thought he was way too quiet in that game, unfortunately.
Yeah, sorry, I'm sending a message to our boss. I need to let him know we're in the middle of the podcast.
Okay.
It's nothing important, I don't think, but just letting him know. All right, that has been work stuff in the middle of the podcast.
Yeah,
but I think we
Janot last night -1 2 penalty minutes, no shots on goal, no hits, nothing, no blocks, 950 of time on ice. You gotta make that 950 count, brother.
He's sort of along the same lines as McAvoy, where it's like I gotta feel your presence, and we haven't really felt it nearly enough this year. But we kind of made a natural segue into what I also want to talk about. Over the course of this losing streak, I do think it's a silver lining. I know you're saying we need to see more of it. We need to see more of the grit and balls and the piss and vinegar and all that. But they have at least shown some fight getting back in these games. They dig themselves a hole, which is not good. But it feels like they're willing themselves back into games because they're not that talented. And it's like the fact that they're able to come back and make a 4-1 game, a 4-3 game, for instance, against Tampa, where it's like, there's a little something there. I feel like maybe there's a little something. I feel like Marco Sturm maybe has the guys buying in, and they're just not getting their details down yet because part of it is probably Sturm doesn't have all the details down yet because it's his first year as a head coach. So he's probably, having a learning curve there. But if at least they're not giving up on game, they're not laying down, right? We need to see more of the grit and the piss, and that's gonna keep the puck out of the net. The more we see of that, but I think it's at least a silver line that they'll get themselves back in a game if it's going bad for them. That might be an ideal scenario for anyone that wants the Bruins to tank for Gavin McKenna or whatever, or get back in the lottery one more year. They're showing all kinds of fight. They're competitive and they just stink. They just can't keep the puck out of the net. So I'm not saying that's what I want, but I do want them to try to win these games, and they're at least trying. They're coming back. They're showing a little bit of resilience. That's a silver lining. And then look, I don't know that they can't live that way. They can't keep digging themselves holes like this, and they really don't have the talent to actually come back and get over that hump and win some of these comebacks. But maybe it's a sign that Sturm at least has some buy-in, and there's a little something there between the coach and the players.
Yeah, I think that's fair, right? And I thought Morgan Geekie kind of summed it up best last night. He was asked about, these are close games. You're not winning them, but they're all 1-goal games for the most part. Is that encouraging? And he said it can only be encouraging for so long, right? If you lose 5 games in a row and 4 out of the 5 are 1-goal losses, then your fans and the people who cover your team can kind of look at those games and go, you should probably have 3 more points than you do. You sneak an overtime loss in there too, and you sneak a comeback win in there. I think that's what's most troubling, right? Is so last night, so on Tuesday night, they find that for the 5th game in a row, they get a chance to tie the game with a late with a third period power play opportunity. They had yet to convert in this scenario. They do it on Tuesday. Right there, I'm going, okay, got to get a point out of this now because you did what you weren't able to do in the previous 4 games. To show growth is to get it done and then get the result, right? They give the goal up 5 minutes later. Okay, now they're back down. Okay, now the goalie's pulled. They didn't score one of these goals until like game 60 last year, whatever it was. They do it. They score a goal. All right, tied up. Got to get a point now. Dare I say, got to get a win now, I would almost say. The momentum is on your side. You fought back. Your PK has been great. Swayman, who did not have a great game, made a great save on Sam Bennett in the third period to keep it a game.
Yeah,
You got to win this game. And then what happens? A prayer play at the offensive end. You don't connect. You give possession. It goes the other way. And then shit happens. As is often the case with bad teams, they will find a way to lose a game. Puck goes off Andrew Peake's foot and into the back of the net. Ball game. So you look at the silver linings and you're like, they're kind of all undone by how it all ended, right? And this is what you worry about with this team is that they are not equipped to overcome the lapses that are too common when you are the team they are. And this is what I worry about. So I agree. The fight in Vegas, awesome. The fight in Utah, awesome. But at a certain point, you got to get the win. You got to get the points because your schedule is not going to get any easier. They might lose the next 3, Matt. They really might. Like
Anaheim is off to a good start, right?
And they can score. And yep. I like Lucas Dostal. I think he's a really good goaltender. Colorado's back in town on Saturday, and then you have Linus Ullmark next Monday. Like, doesn't get any easier. I know Ullmark hasn't had a great start to the year, but he has gotten up for the games against the Bruins so far.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like they could very well just keep losing. Maybe I don't know. I guess maybe the Ottawa game is their best chance to stop the bleeding. Like I don't know, or Anaheim at home. I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, Anaheim
doesn't feel good right now.
Anaheim at home should be a game where you do win. But they're scoring right now. You know, like I think they have like 19 goals. Which like doesn't 19 goals for 6 games doesn't seem like a lot, but like they got talent, right? And they're in a competitive division. They're in a competitive conference, in my opinion. So I think that they're a sneaky, underrated, good offense where you have a Toronto, you have Kreider, who looks like he's come alive. You got all these guys that I think like up and down their lineup that can hurt you if you're not paying attention. And that's been a problem for the Bruins. Has been getting hurt. Those lapses, Peterka's and Gunther's and McKinnon's can torch you, but they're also getting burned by some other guys as well. So that's an issue too.
Do you think? Quick thought on Anaheim with them coming to town. Do you think removing Trevor Zegras from that locker room has helped them? Like he has a reputation. He has a bad reputation.
I mean, in the sense that I don't think he was a good fit for. Like, I don't think he was making the difference between winning and losing games. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
I look at it as more like an infection in the group.
Yeah. So I just don't think he has an impact on winning. You know what I'm saying? Like I think, like you look at him, like he can play center, he can play wing. I think he's better probably as a wing. And so when you have Vetrano and you bring in Kreider and you have Cutter Gauthier and you have the kid Beckett Seneke or Bennett. I think it's Beckett.
I think
who's off to a good start to his rookie season with them. Like when you have those guys in, okay, you got to ask yourself, okay, what's better for us? Zegras playing on the third line and then bumping one of these guys down to the fourth line, or just getting rid of Trevor Zegras. And I think it's getting rid of Trevor Zegras. So
yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know enough about him to say that he's like a legit, like bad guy. I've heard stuff that he can drive people mental, but I've never heard that he's like an outright bad person. So like, I don't want to like throw that out there, but
I didn't mean that.
No, I think it's just more getting
like a teammate.
I think I'm just like getting rid of like roster redundancies. I think that's probably how I would describe him. Whereas now you look at their lines and you're like, oh, cool. Like I can see like the vision here, right? Like I can see what they're aiming for. They also still have Alex Killorn. They have Troy Terry. They bring in Granlund. It's just like
good character guys.
Yeah, like they got a roster that you kind of look at and go, oh, okay, I see the vision now. Whereas Zegras, I feel like might be a bit like Casey Middlestad in the option in the sense that where you're like, I don't know where to put this guy. We hope we can put him in positions to get points, but I don't know what our expectations really are.
Well, I appreciate that explanation, Tyler Lee Anderson, the noted hockey expert at 98.5 The Sports Hub. We digress. I do want to touch on the one game that we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, because we've mentioned every other game on their schedule so far, and that is when they got destroyed by the Colorado Avalanche every night. I know you mentioned Nathan McKinnon, but what do you think is like the difference with that game? Is it just that Colorado might be the best team in the league and just their high-end talent? Like, why didn't they have the kind of comeback resilience fight in that game that we've seen in the other losses?
Too good, too good. I don't mean to be so boring with that answer, but I mean,
they're just not nearly that level.
No, and it shows in those kind of matchups. I think that Cale Makar didn't have an electric game. Like he was great, but you didn't hear his name a lot, right? Like you got beat by Josh Manson, you got beat by who else they had in their lineup? Gabe Landeskog wins the faceoff to get it back to Manson on that goal. Like you just look at their lineup and it's like, where do you catch a break? Like where do you catch a break against Colorado? I can look at Florida last night and say, oh, okay, like yeah, they got Boquist playing third line right now. Maybe you catch a break there.
Oh, AJ Greer, we can catch a break. Oh, never mind.
Right, like the Panthers are without Kulikov on the back end. Okay, maybe you can catch a break there. Like I don't know where you find it on the road against Colorado. Like they're just so good and they're so deep. And what's really impressive, and I don't know if this has since changed since the Bruins played them, but at that point, the Colorado top line of Artturi Lehkonen, Nathan McKinnon, and Marty Necas had yet to be on the ice for a goal against that 5-on-5 play. That's ridiculous. Like that's just domination, right? And it's a cheat code. It's kind of like Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak. It's your cheat code. And you are what I don't know, what like say the Senators were 5 years ago going against the Bergeron perfection line. Like you're kind of that team right now where you're like, we got a couple pieces, but we can't hang with that. That's just not fair. Like that's kind of what it felt like in that game. And so I just think they're too deep, they're too skilled, they're too veteran savvy, and they just play the game so damn fast. It's unbelievable how fast they play, and it's a bad matchup for the Boston Bruins. But I think to your point in the greater picture, Colorado
back to the Bruins here.
Colorado is really good at generating shots and suppressing shots. That's a bad matchup for the Bruins, who already struggle to generate much of anything. If you go against a team that's the best in the league at shutting you down, which they did in Colorado and Utah. Utah, another team that doesn't allow a lot of shots. When that's like, all right, hey, the mountain is already tall, but now we're going to add another mountain on top. It's like, geez, and so this is where being opportunistic, like we talked about last week, this is where that really kind of rears its head because you're not going to get a lot of chances. Let's say an average game for the Bruins, you get 9 chances. Well, against Colorado on the road, you're getting 5. So you better make those 5 count, and they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, that should be the Bruins' aspiration, is to turn into a team like Colorado eventually. James Higgins is your Nathan McKinnon. It's maybe too much to ask that they can get their version of Cale Makar. But you hopefully, maybe Charlie McAvoy could just play better. But defenseman should be considered a long-term need for the Bruins. Maybe even first-round pick coming up. But that's all.
I would agree with that.
That's all. Yeah.
I mean, who's the last high-end defenseman they've drafted? And like, it's probably Vakanainen at this point, right? In 2017.
You mean a high draft pick, right? Because
yeah,
he's not really a high-end defenseman.
No, yeah, but I mean, the last time they targeted that position with their draft picks, Lohrei was the second-round pick, 50th overall, I believe. So that was your high pick that draft, but it's not a high pick in the traditional sense. There was talk of them doing that in this year's draft, but they were able to move up into the first round. The end of the first round, some guys went. I admittedly haven't done a big old deep dive into the mocks yet. In terms of who's available.
And they did draft, didn't they draft a defenseman in the second round this past summer?
They had Blenar, and then
They drafted someone earlier than that, like Sanderson,
Pedersen,
Pedersen,
Liam.
Pedersen,
I think
Pedersen.
is it
Liam
Pedersen?
Pedersen. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But no, but
Noted draft expert, Matt Dolph over here.
I would say to watch that Toronto pick, depending on where it falls, could put them in line for a draft for a defenseman in this year's draft. That Toronto pick is top 5 protected, I believe. Toronto not off to a great start, but they're going to turn it around, I imagine. But if they don't, and that's say middle of the first round, like you might be able to get that kind of defenseman that we're talking about here. And maybe not obviously not a Cale Makar type, but a guy that you look at and go, okay, I see the vision here. I see what you're cooking with here. And you're kind of off to the races there. Big question though, Matt, would be left side or right side? Because like they kind of need both right now. But what would you prioritize?
I think just take the best player. Don't even think about it that way. Would be my request.
Yeah. Is
that what would you agree?
I would go left. I just feel like that's organizationally such a massive need for them.
Yeah. To do a straw man, like if you give me, they're the exact same prospect except one's lefty and one's righty. Yes, go with the lefty.
Yeah, I just think your left side is so like I like Freddie Brunet, but like he's a ways away, right?
Yeah.
And what's he going to be at this level? The Lindholm situation, little worrisome to me now that he plays one game. They say load management for keeping him out the next night, and then on Tuesday he says, "No, I can't play." It's all right. You've now missed 5 out of 6, right? And you're coming off major knee injury. I can't confirm that this injury is not related to the knee. It's not the knee. So this isn't a Kevin Miller situation where he suffered a massive setback with the knee. It's completely unrelated to the knee. But it is something that, bears worth watching. Like, has he hit the wall? This was a kid who came in the NHL at like, I think 19 or 20, and now he's approaching, he might be actually in his 30s now. I think he might be 31. Yeah. Like, has the wall come for him?
It doesn't necessarily make me feel better that it's not related to the knee. It's just like, oh, another thing, a new thing now.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily make me feel any better.
Right. Like, have you hit the wall? Right. Have you hit the point where, you've played 800 NHL games, whatever it is, and you do play all situations, and you have had some long playoff runs, both in Boston and especially in Anaheim when he's a younger player. Like, are there too many miles now on the tread, and now you're more susceptible to injuries? Like Andrew Ference was a great defenseman, right? Like, he was a great second pairing guy. His final years in Boston, he was in and out of he was on and off the shelf, with groin injuries and knee injuries and elbows. And like, it's like, yeah, he played a lot of hockey in his career by that point, and so like, that is something that sometimes with these guys, like you have to hyper manage it at a certain point.
Yeah, I think Hampus is just always going to have some kind of, he's going to have to manage the lower body injuries, because I know he played through the foot injury before. So it's like, it's not a toughness thing. It's just durability, I guess, breaking.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
I like these storm clouds that are outside my apartment window have made it look like I'm telling a ghost story right now to you.
I can't tell, honestly. That's what it looks like on
it
your
just
end?
It feels very dark in here, but I have like a flashlight to my face. Like, are you afraid of the dark? Which, by the way, hated that intro. Hated the little witch doll in the bed. Did not care for it. Yes.
Yeah, that was not. I used to be. Some of that is like legit. I bet I could watch a couple of those and still be a little creeped out.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. Yeah. That was a legitimate scary production, I thought.
Yeah, same thing with the
honestly, if someone said like my kid wants to watch horror movies, what should I put him on to get him started? I would literally say like, see if you can find Are You Afraid of the Dark? That was like, that's how I got into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. That and like some of the Goosebumps ones were like really terrifying. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, they probably had I remember they had that old show with the fire theme song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was great. That was a great theme song. People sleep on how people sleep on how good that theme song was.
It's absolutely cooked with whoever wrote that,
I did see
especially that piano.
I did see a video of the guy who wrote the Goosebumps theme song, like playing it on guitar, or not guitar, on piano at like a random like con. And I was like, oh hell yeah, gotta like that.
That would have been fun to see in person. All right, Ty, let's talk about Brad Marchand. He finally made his long-awaited return to actually play in a Panthers game. I know the Panthers came back here after the trade last year, but Marchand was hurt. So there's a little bit like Marchand, I think, was skating a little bit, but wasn't able to play. Finally able to actually play in the game. Has, great tribute overall. Like, I know the video, like, they're probably saving a better, like, more emotional video package for when they retire his number and things like that. This is more like a in your face, like, hockey highlight type of Marchand thing. But then just like the standing ovation and the curtain call, Marchand getting as emotional as I've ever seen a player. I honestly even got a little choked up just being in the building and witnessing that. And a lot of other people told me the same thing, whether they were there or watching from home. Like, that was great stuff, I thought, the tribute from Marchand. And then in the game, he makes an immediate impact. He gets the game's first shot on goal. He intercepts a breakout attempt in the neutral zone, draws a penalty, assist on the power play. Like, that was just the Brad Marchand story, that first shift of the actual game. But then the tribute was great, and then he was great after the game too. And guys talking about him like that was a good overall night for the Marchand, the whole Marchand element. Just putting the game itself aside, because the game is 1 of 82, but Marchand is a guy that is going to be an immortal in Boston Bruins history. Number 63 probably going to the rafters. And so, like, that kind of told me it's like you don't need to do a little video tribute for every little player that comes back. If you just saved it for the Marchands of the world, it might have more impact. But I think that thing had enough of an impact that it would be felt no matter what they did. I thought it was well done overall and good stuff with Marchand.
Yeah, no, it was organic too, and that's probably the most important part of these things, is that sometimes they can get a little too weepy eyed, a little too corny, whatever you want to call it. I thought this was done right. This was done in a way that didn't take away. It reflected everything that he did. Right. I think there was like 3 of the shorthanded goals he scored in his career in that highlight package, which I think you have to include with a player like him. There was the Game 7 goal in Vancouver, which, like, It's funny if you go back and you watch Game 7. When Marchand scores the empty net goal, that's going to win them the cup. He is banging on the glass, MFing all the Canucks fans. And you can hear, if you listen closely, you can hear Recchi going, Marshy, like trying to pull him away from, like, taunting the Vancouver crowd, knowing that he just stole the cup from them. And then you see how he evolved over time, right? And how he became the guy that, was a team captain, was someone that, players relied on and talked to when they needed guidance. Like, a super interesting career, and a guy that I think a lot of fans can kind of relate to, like, in the sense that, the fans aren't out there scoring 40 goals and, killing penalties, but very workmanlike attitude, right? Like, this very us against the world attitude. And he was the underdog, right? And he carved out an amazing career for himself, and it's continuing in Florida. But I think a super relatable player for, like, the common fan, which I think added to his mystique and added to his allure for the fans in Boston. I think, just what a character Marchand was, and just the evolution of who he was. If you go back, Matt, and I'm telling stories out of school here, but it's okay. It's been 15 years. Everyone can move on. He's not in the Stanley Cup DVD. He's not. Do you know why? Because he was so goddamn trashed from all the partying in the city of Boston that they couldn't get him to, like, record a lot of things they wanted him to record. He was such a face of, like, the party that was that 2011 team.
He's relatable.
He's relatable. He's absolutely relatable in that sense. And so, he was not as involved in a lot of the post 11 celebrations, that recorded them at the Red Sox game, whatever it was, like, them recording their clips for the DVD, because he was partying, man. He was enjoying it. It was the cup, and But again, to watch that evolution from what he was then to what he became, super impressive and a cool moment for sure. I still think it's the right move. I'm still okay with it. I think that.
Yeah, no, I was going to mention, I was
Yeah.
going to tee you up for that.
Yeah.
That you wrote about that at 985thesportshub.com. Still the right move to move on from Marchand. Like, I know there were people tweeting, like, he wanted to stay. How dare you, Bruins? Like, why didn't you just pay him what he wanted? It's like, no, it's kind of time to move on and turn the page and stop holding on to this. Like, so you want to keep Brad Marchand and just maybe tread water and get back to play? Like, you're going to do that anyway. And so, like, it's time to move on to the new era. And, like, I'm not saying the new era looks particularly good right now,
Mm-hmm.
but, like, Marchand was going to be kind of a roadblock to that. I still, even though he still looks good and he could probably win another cup or 2 or 3 with Florida, I don't know what he's going to look like when he's 40, 41, 42 years old. I did not have to give him a 6-year extension. Like, they did not need to match that. And so,
No.
like, yeah, I think it was completely the right move to turn the page and move on, give him a chance to actually go win a cup, which is, he was not going to win another cup here. And so, and Marchand also, he talked to Steve Levy about this on ESPN last night. That's on Twitter, about how he actually, maybe he's just taking the high road, but he kind of said, like, I kind of regret the way I acted during the contract negotiation too. And so, like, maybe that's just him taking the classy approach. Like, I didn't think he would take a shot at the organization or anything like that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, he was asked if he had any regrets, and, like, he said, like, I don't really regret it because I went to Florida and won a Stanley Cup, and that's what I'm in this for. But at the same time, like, maybe I could have handled it a little differently at the end of the road in Boston. So, like, he showed a little contrition there, but I think that just sort of speaks to why the Bruins were probably right to end up, parting ways and moving on to this next era. So you
Yeah.
wrote about it, so you give your thoughts.
Yeah, I think unfortunately the Bruins have to lose a little bit here. They had to lose last year. The final game before the deadline was the Carolina game where Nikita Zadorov's stick breaks on a last minute breakout and they lose the game. And it's like, that was a sign that, like, all right, you got to reset it here. Like, you can't keep, just chasing it, right? And they were chasing it, and as long as Brad was here, they had that 2011 crutch to lean on and say, well, we still got our members from 2011 and we got to win it for them. And, I think Brad Marchand is good enough. And I mean this in the nicest way possible. He's good enough to keep you from getting James Higgins. He has takeover ability still. He can still take over a game. You saw it in the playoffs. You saw it, even shades of it last night. Like, he can win you games. The Bruins needed to stop winning games last year. And Brad Marchand was a direct conflict to the long-term goal of the organization. And that's how I look at it from the Bruins point of view. But from the Marchand point of view, it's also not fair to him to say, hey, you're 37. Can we suck for like 3 years and then you'll be maybe still here when you're 41, when we're good again? Like, the timelines didn't match up anymore, right? And I think that for the Bruins, they were going to be stuck in their ways of chasing contracts and chasing talent because, well, we got Marchand here. We got to try to win one for him. Look what they did last year. They bring in Elias Lindholm because he compares to Patrice Bergeron, and they say, well, we might need that, for Brad because Brad misses Bergeron. Didn't work out. It might work out, but it didn't work out in the first year. They bring in Zadorov. Oh, Zadorov is like Chara. He's 6'7", he's 6'9", and he plays heavy and he can be a leader, and we like what he can do. Like, they were still making moves based off what they did in the past, and so, like, they could never let go of the past so long as 63 was here. They just couldn't do it. And I think that those moves they've made, like, you're seeing them work out now, right? But, like, how many more of those moves are they going to make to try to help Brad and help them get to what they did in 2011? This is what I wonder. Like, you needed to remove the last bit of 2011 so that you could stop clinging to it because it's become an obsession for them.
Yeah.
It had become an obsession to the point where they were losing sight of the long-term vision because they would reference 2011.
Yeah, for your health. Move on from 2011. It's like, you tried. You made real efforts to win one more cup for Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand and David Krejci and even Chara while you tried and you came up short. It happened. It sucks, but at some point you gotta move on to the next chapter of the organization. And look, You don't have to love the moves they made in the offseason. I didn't like a lot of what they did in the offseason and where it's going this year. But, in the long term, we got to see how that goes. And I think it was eventually you gotta, it's just time. And I feel like once they realized that like Marchand wasn't going to budge on the contract and they weren't going to give him the years he wanted, then it's like, okay, fine, let's move on. So that's, I mean, that's all I got for that.
And how would that be fair? How would that be fair to Marchand? Because the Bruins would want him to do that, take less so we can build a better team around you. And it's like, okay, well, you've tried that before and it hasn't worked out. So you're going to ask another guy to do that? Like, I don't know. Like, I think that could only further complicate things, right? Where Marchand had been on the best deal in hockey for 8 years and he wanted to, recoup some of that money he left on the table. And the Bruins were going to turn around and say, no, you got to go year to year. Sorry. We it's how we do it. Bergeron did it. Krejci did it. Chara did it. Well, you don't want to do that? 2011, man. It's like, it was just becoming like a weird, I don't know, almost parasitic relationship, I think, to a certain degree in terms of like what your expectations were for him, while also saying to him, you're still going to be our second best player, by the way, but we want to pay you less. It's like, I don't love that for him, and so I think that, what he did in Florida, Matt, is what he could have done in Boston had they built a more sustainable model and had they realized, that time is a real thing earlier, right? Like I think what's impressive about Florida is the moves that they've made to bring in high-end talent. These aren't moves that were deadline additions. They were long-term visions. Sam Reinhart, Sam Bennett, Matt Tkachuk. Like, they made moves that were not just Rick Nash at the deadline. Okay, now we're going to bring in Jerome McGinley for 1 year. Like, no. Like, they had the long-term vision to build it sustainably and to build it long-term. Whereas the Bruins, I think, were very year by year, right? And that's the difference. And so, if the Bruins took a more sustainable approach to it, Marchand's on their third line being a nightmare and they're a cup contender. If they hit on their draft picks, 2 of them, they are more like the Florida Panthers, and Brad Marchand's on your third line, second line, maybe feasting on matchups. They didn't do that. Marchand was still asked to be too important while being also asked to take less money. So it just made sense to move on for where these organizations were trending, or where these parties were trending. The Bruins organization and Brad Marchand, the veteran player who wanted one more Stanley Cup.
Yeah, it all goes back to the drafting and even developing too, but definitely the drafting. And that's why you couldn't really get that last cup with the guys, because you didn't have enough coming up through the pipeline around them. That's just how it went.
I mean, we have to like, we all got to let go of 2015. We got to do it. It's bad for your health, but think about how different the organization looks in Marchand's role specifically if they get Kyle Connor, if they get Alex DeBrincat instead of Trent Frederick. Like, these little moves, they added up over time, like if you take who is it, Robert Thomas over Euro Vakanainen, like
someone over John Beecher, I imagine would have been better.
That one's a little weird. I don't think there's a lot of guys that have actually like really popped off. That draft is kind of shitty around that spot.
Poo-poo.
Yeah, but I think it's Robert Thomas or Josh Norris. I can't remember. Maybe
there's got to be someone
who goes after Vakanainen in 2017. Just think about how different the forward complexion looks for your team, and again, this is where it just comes back to the bloodletting of draft picks and then the multi-year drafting of players that the goal was to fit in versus surpass Marchand on the depth chart, right? And
yeah,
it all kind of came together in a toxic bad soup for the Boston Bruins and Brad Marchand.
That soup is stinky. It is a stinky soup.
What, you got a boot in there?
Yeah, seriously, needs more dog. All right, Ty, any more was there anything else you wanted to touch on, maybe around the NHL, anything hockey related before we get out of here? Because we've covered the pertinent Bruins topics, but I just wonder if there's anything else. Otherwise, we can wind down here.
No, I think that the one thing the Bruins have going for them right now, relating it to the league as a whole, is that the Eastern Conference has not been very good out of the gate. There's not a lot of teams that you look at and say,
you kind of predicted that.
Yeah, but it's interesting, right? Like, Toronto is still in the mud.
Tampa's not off to a good start.
No, they are
other than
not
beating the Bruins.
Columbus is 500, and I thought they were going to be a good team this year. Ottawa, no Kachuk, and Allmark's been poopy out of the gate. The Rangers, we talked about them last week, not off to a great start. And so you look at the top of each division, and it's New Jersey, who's without Markstrom right now. He's out for a couple of weeks here. It's Detroit. It's not like I'm looking at the East right now going, oh, all these teams are going to totally be here in games 40, 60, and 80. So there's room here for the Bruins to rise because I think that the East is going to be this way for pretty much the whole season, in my opinion. These teams kind of going up and down, the elevator ride, so to speak. So I do think that, that's the one thing you can say about the Bruins, right? Is they're not getting buried by the conference. Like everyone's kind of keeping pace right now in mediocrity. If everyone was winning and the Bruins were now, 8 points out of a playoff spot, you're like, oh, they can't make that up. But right now it feels like a lot of teams are just kind of hanging around, but not thriving.
Yeah, no, totally. That's how it feels like. I guess quickly, I got one more Bruins thing is that like, how can they get back to being better? And like, I feel like the goaltending is obvious. Like, I feel like they need to be a little bit better than they've been so far this year. Both of them, Swayman especially, since he's the number one guy. But I just think like you got to tighten it up defensively, and so maybe reconfigure your lineup, move low right down, maybe move Zadorov up with McAvoy. I guess it might help getting Hampus Lindholm back. It will help when they get Hampus Lindholm back. I know we're concerned about when the hell is he going to be back, but like I guess maybe you can't depend on that. But like reshuffle your defensive lineup and like try to nail down those defensive details and like just start to limit your goals against, and then maybe you won't dig these holes for yourself, and then maybe you can get a bounce of the puck like Florida got last night and start winning some 1-goal games. And so that's my thought. What do you think the Bruins could do to sort of tighten up and play a little better?
Yeah, I think kind of bringing it back to what we said off the jump, structurally, defensively, they gotta to win this way is gonna hurt and it's gonna suck, but you got to do it, right? And if you can't dig in and do that, then you got to make harder decisions elsewhere to reconfigure your lineup. Like you're going to have to block shots. You're going to have to really smother teams out. With the goaltending, I don't disagree with you. I do think I think both guys have more to give. I do think that Tuesday was the first actual bad game of the year for Swayman. But it also, again, this comes back to defensively, like I think they're allowing the 7th most high danger goals against per 60, which again correlates to too many chances, but also not getting enough saves. But this is the team problem where it's not feasible to expect exceptional goaltending every single night, right? So you got to find more production out of your first line, which I don't think has been good. I don't think the geeky Lindholm Pastrnak line has been good this year. They had a great game 1. Since then, I've kind of wanted more, I feel like, each game. And you got to get that second line in order. I think Pavel Zacha is the only guy on that second line right now that you look at and say, yep, living up to expectations or beating them. Middlestead had a bounce back game on Tuesday, but now you got to see him build on that, right? Like I thought Middlestead actually had a pretty good game. He gets moved to the wing, right? But he has 2 assists. But they don't tie that game on that Morgan Geeky goal without Middlestead winning the faceoff to set that play up and then getting the puck out to Geeky in front of the net. So that's a bounce back, right? And so you hope that he can build off that, right? Get some confidence going in his game, get some pride in his game again. But that second line, you need more out of them. Minton didn't play much at all last night. I think in like 9 minutes. You didn't even see him, it felt like. So like you got to get more out of your offense because right now it just feels like the margins that you're asking your goaltenders to play in it's just too thin right now. It's just you can't go, 17 minutes without a shot on goal and then lose the game 4-1 and blame the goalie. Right?
Yeah, right.
And I'm not saying you're doing that, but like that's
no, I'm not. No.
Yeah, but like that's kind of the situation they're in where it's like, I can't blame the goalie if you have 2 shots in a period. I can't blame the goalie if you have these lulls where you're not producing anything at the other end, and you're allowing way too much. And that's what they got to clean up.
The way it is right now, it's like there's just a couple of instances here and there where it's like, I would have liked to save there. But it's not like most of the time, it's like, I don't know what you want this guy to do. Like the first Panthers goal, like what do you want Jeremy Swayman to do? Like they're letting guys right into the crease. So a lot to clean up.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let's take the Buffalo game out of it real quick. And I know that's fuckery. I admit that. That's me, moving
Mike, if you take away this game, no, go ahead.
But go back to the win against Chicago. They have a 1-0 lead. It lasts for 4 minutes and 26 seconds. They have a 3-2 lead. It lasts for 2 minutes and 7 seconds. Then in Vegas, they have a 1-0 lead. It lasts for 90 seconds. Then they have a 2-1 lead. It lasts for 1 minute, 49 seconds. They have a 1-0 lead against Colorado. It lasts for 3 minutes and 57 seconds. They have a 2-1 lead over Utah. It lasts for 10 minutes and 10 seconds. And then last night, they have a 3-2 lead against Florida. It lasted for about 5 minutes and 5 minutes and 30 seconds. This is sort of what, when they hired Marco Sturm, I mentioned, they want to be better at protecting the lead. They have not. They have been very leaky with their leads, and that's got to change as well. They got to, once you get that lead, you got to be a boa constrictor. You got to snuff out the opposition. They have not done that.
That's exactly what I thought they would be. If they're just going up 1-0. Okay, now we're going to sit on the lead for 58 minutes. I thought that's what they were going to be. They're still like with these answer goals, as you called them.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't know why is this is just always going to be a thing?
At a certain point, it becomes mental. Talking to players last year about it when they were doing it, they were like, it comes at you in waves, and then you're like, you're kind of looking at the clock going, like it does become mental, but it's too early in the year for this to be mental, right? Like, but when I give you all those numbers there, and again, I know we're excluding the Buffalo game, because they led pretty much the whole way. But over their losing streak, their longest lead, and they've had 5 of them, has been 10 minutes. Like, you gotta play better with the lead. It's just part of the game. It just is.
Absolutely. All right, well, Ty, good pod. This might be the longest remote episode in the history of the Sports Hub Underground. I mean, I don't know. You go back 2-3 years, we would ramble. But This has been a good one. This might be the longest YouTube episode anyway. So congratulations to our faithful listeners. If you made it this far, thanks. I love you. Ty, any closing thoughts for us? Yes?
No, I got nothing.
All right, I'll let you go. I've been for the YouTube people will notice this. I've actually been doing the whole episode from Purgatory. I actually did die last night. I am now in the waiting room. I got into heaven, so that's good news. I wasn't sure about that. But yeah, I'll see you on the other side, Ty.
Sounds good. I mean, I don't want to die for a little while, so hopefully I'm not seeing you that soon. But
No. I'll see you in like 50 years. It's fine.
Oh, you hear this late breaking news here? The NBA is going to paint. They're going to go back to painting the Larry O'Brien Trophy at center court for the NBA Finals, which reminds us, by the way, Matt, the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs got to get back to painting that logo right inside the blue lines. Got to get back to that.
I never even noticed that they stopped doing that.
Now it's like superimposed on just like the TV, I think.
Oh,
sucks.
Stupid. Just a waste of time.
Oh, man.
Just one stupid application of unnecessary application of AI, tech, whatever.
Fans can relate to this. There's nothing quite like that first game of the playoffs where you walk into the stadium, you're walking up to your seats, and you get to like the entryway, and you look at the ice, and you see the Stanley Cup playoffs with the year painted in that blue paint. Oh, oof. Absolute boner city.
It's real. You can see it and touch it, not the boner, the paint on the ice.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, no, that's assault, brother. No, but you know what? Let's get back to traditions, baby. Let's get back to these things.
I like it.
You know what I also missed? I also miss in baseball when they have like that red, white, and blue, like little weird flag thing for the playoffs. I like that.
I agree, and I think that's going to happen. I think humans are going to revolt against AI and tech at some point. We are going to see a comeback of stuff like that. So, looking forward to it. I'm glad I was ahead of the curve on that. All right, little treat for the listeners that made it and watchers that made it this far. So, thanks for listening, folks. We're going to keep talking Bruins and talking hockey in the next episode. Don't know when that's going to be, but we'll get back to you and talk more hockey whenever we can. This is the Sports Hub Underground. I am Matt Dolph. He's Ty Anderson. Again, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. Hit us with a like and a subscribe. Positive comments only, please. And then you can also subscribe to us on Apple and Spotify and get us wherever you get your podcasts. So Get us wherever you want. And, of course, at 98.5, thesportshub.com and the Sports Hub app. Plenty of great Bruins coverage there, mostly from Ty. And so we'll continue covering the Bruins season as it goes along, no matter how good or bad it goes. So we're here for you, hockey fans. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon.